Hello art fiends! It is finally here, the last video for Mermay 2020. I know, it's June already, but my dumb posting schedule could only fit it in this way. Please forgive me. I'm honestly impressed with myself for actually finishing this challenge. I am notorious for giving up halfway through these kinds of things, but I did it. I drew 31 mermaids, and with this video, we're gonna dive into the last 7 of them. Please watch from part 1 if you want the whole gist of what these videos are about. Very quickly, for the whole month of May, I drew a mermaid every day based on a prompt list. Now, let's go right into the finale of this series. Starting off with day 25, the prompt for this day was shark. So, I've had shark mermaids in quite a few of my other drawings, but with this being the exact prompt, I had to really focus in on this shark character. So, I thought an interesting scene would be someone stumbling onto a shark and being tempted by them. I thought of the trope where there are fish mermaids and then shark mermaids who are at each other's throats constantly, so I decided to push into that trope, having a scene where a fish mermaid stumbles onto a shark who is trying to strike a deal, but obviously has ulterior motives. To contrast the shark, I went with a dolphin for the other mermaid. However, we don't really see much of this in the detail of the design. It was more for the color choices, since the mermaid is very close to the viewer. For the shark character, I chose a tiger shark as the specific breed to base her off of. I tried to contrast the shark and the dolphin as much as I could. I made the shark very sharp and menacing looking, but they are both mermaids in the end, so they aren't crazy different. The big thing was I made the dolphin more stereotypical, with a human color and design top, with an obvious separation from the fish half. The shark was more entirely fish-like. Her patterns and colors blended her entire body together. For color specifics, I went with colors directly from the animals, keeping these other character differences in mind as well. For lighting, I wanted something a little dramatic for this interaction. The dolphin mermaid has harsh shadows on the back to both push the eye towards the shark and to show how dramatic this is. Everything else is simply shaded, but I kept the opacity high so it looks a bit darker. Alright, so here is the shark. Day 26th prompt was shore. For some reason, the first thing that came to my mind was a beached whale, so I thought, why not just go with that? First, I sketched a mermaid lying almost passed out on a beach with the water around her. At first, I thought it would be interesting to have some humans looking down on the mermaid in wonder after she washed ashore. However, once I picked the specific animal, I realized this mermaid would be giant, so these humans would be tiny. So placing them in the scene would have been a lot more difficult than originally planned. So I scrapped the humans altogether and just made the focus on the mermaid alone. Speaking of the animal, I decided to go for a humpback whale. Whales are one of the more well-known animals that are found beached, so I thought this would be perfect. I decided something cool that I could incorporate into this design would be barnacles. These are commonly found on whales, and I thought it would be interesting to also include it on a mermaid. For colors, I again gave her the colors of the humpback whale, as well as a simple brown color for the barnacles. The shading was very simple, nothing too crazy. I played with the water a bit, showing how the mermaid is interacting with it and how this is right on the beach, including a bit of the sand underneath the water. Alright, so this is shore. The prompt for day 27 was punk. This word always makes me think of gangs, so I thought about having a gang of mermaids. I thought I would play with this, but kind of comedically, so I decided to have 2 mermaids for this one. They would be wearing matching jackets to show that they are in a gang together. They are facing the viewer, confronting them. For the animal, I wanted something sharp and dangerous, but also not very intimidating. I still wanted to have some kind of comedic bit to it, so I went with the pufferfish. With having 2 mermaids, I could also show 2 sides of the pufferfish, the deflated and the inflated. The more leader-like is intimidating the viewer, puffed out and spikes showing, while the other is more of a bodyguard hench type, stoic and not puffed out. The idea is that they can go between states, so both could puff out or not when needed. This is also the second time I went with males instead of females. I think I decided this because of the open chest of the characters. Their only clothes are this ripped jacket and nothing else. For colors, I chose directly from the pufferfish references I had. I tried to keep them different, but also connect the two by where their patterns are. When puffed out, the mermaid color is taken up by the spikes color. However, when calm, the spikes color becomes a circle pattern on the tail, indicating where the spikes come from. They both also have two-toned hair, and the bottom of their tail is the same color as their skin. The shading was very straightforward, again, not going for anything crazy. Okay, so here is the Punk Pufferfish Gang. For day 28, the prompt was bestial. With this prompt, I wanted to go for something that is completely unhuman looking. This mermaid is closer to the animal it's based on than the human side of it. I wanted to use an animal that was far from the mermaid norm, one with more legs and less tail. I decided that a great animal to get this would be a lobster. Lobsters themselves aren't really creepy, but by exaggerating its limbs and torso, I figured I could come up with some monstrous being. To show how odd this thing was, I decided to show it climbing up a rock wall in the darkness, with a subtle light shining on it to catch its attention. Similar to the crab, I used the lobster's shell as a kind of armor look. However, unlike the crab, this isn't obviously disconnected from the body, and more of an extension of it. I divided the parts into different sections. The tail of the lobster made it look truly odd. For colors, I used various oranges and reds to differentiate the different sections. The eyes are a complete black to really give it this beast look. For shading, I wanted this to be very dark and mysterious, so I kept my shadows strong and dark. There's only a very small amount of light on this scene. Okay, this is the bestial mermaid. Day 29 was the prompt Orphan. First, I thought of a single lone mermaid sitting away from civilization. However, I realized that this was very similar to what I came up with for the prompt Outsider, so I had to take this in a different direction to separate the two of them. So I thought of other ways I could interpret Orphan. I knew I wanted to show some sort of lonely mermaid, but the environment is what I had to figure out. I started to think about how a mermaid could become orphaned, and that led me to think about pollution. Finally, I had the idea of this single mermaid who lives in a trash pile underwater. I thought to use an endangered species of fish as well to also help with the orphan idea. So for the specific fish, after looking into endangered species, I decided to go with the Goliath grouper. It has a really interesting pattern, so I thought it would work well on a mermaid. In the design, I added a net wrapped around this mermaid's chest. I thought this would be a good way to connect her to the trash that she is living in, and also relate to her escaping some type of capture, one that possibly left her orphaned. So colors were those of the fish, giving her a pattern that also relates back to it. For the trash, I had one massive lump with a few details popping out to simplify the look, but also let your mind fill in the blanks that this is a pile full of trash. I put in things like bottles and appliances, so I chose colors based on what I thought would work. I kept the shadows simple as well. Okay, here is the orphaned mermaid. For day 30, the prompt was pirate. I thought a fun way to show this prompt would be to have a mermaid interacting with a pirate. However, I didn't want something like a pirate chasing a mermaid or fighting each other. Instead, I wanted something more lighthearted. I decided to have the pirate and the mermaid be friends with one another, to have the mermaid leaning up on the side of the boat as the pirate places their pirate hat on the mermaid's head. I decided to make it a female pirate, thinking them sharing clothes would work really well this way. I also really like female pirates. As for the mermaid, I figured I'd make her a pirate perch, since the fish literally has the word pirate in its name. This was a fun interaction to show, and I had fun with designing the pirate as well. For the colors, I went off my intuition for the pirate, looking to my reference as well for inspiration. The mermaid, I gave colors from the pirate perch. It's a very simple fish, however, so I played around a bit with my interpretation. The shading was very simple once again, something to just highlight the scene a bit. Okay, this is the pirate and her mermaid. Alright, let's do this. The final day. Can't believe we're at this point already. The prompt for this last day was smartphone. An interesting one to end on. There are countless ways I could have taken this. A mermaid taking a selfie, a human giving a mermaid their phone, but instead, I went for a different approach. I liked the idea of a mermaid discovering a cell phone and having no idea what it was. So I planned out a scene where a phone was dropped in the water, and a mermaid curiously looks at it. I decided to have this take place below a pier in order for there to be a reason the phone just fell in the water. I chose to make the mermaid based off of a flounder, a fish commonly found around piers. So using the flounder colors, I created some splotchy patterns on the mermaid to relate it to the fish. For the background, I kept it as natural as I could, covering the pier in moss as well. I have a trail of bubbles coming from the phone in order to show that it is falling down from the top of the canvas. Going into shading, I again kept it simple and straightforward. Well, that's it, the final mermaid. This has been quite a wild ride. I'm proud of myself for finishing the entire challenge. Let's just see if I'm capable of doing it again the next time a monthly challenge rolls around. I hope everyone enjoyed this series. I had fun designing all these mermaids. It was a great exercise in my world building and character designing skills, as well as being able to show a story just from a single image. Let me know if you took part in Mermay in the comments below, or maybe you have ideas for other art challenges I can take part in. If you want to see all the images I did on their own, check out my Instagram and Twitter, both linked below. I am also still taking submissions for my character design critique series. This will be going on indefinitely. If you have a character you want me to take a look at, join my Discord and send me an image and a short description in the video submission channel. This is also linked below. Now, it is time for me to finally do literally anything else. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the things that the YouTubers say. Peace.